Hi there, this is Josh Johnson with a Mac Tuts Quick Tip. Today's topic is Mission Control. We're going to go over the basics of how to use Mission Control, how to launch it, how to get around, and also some more advanced tips and tricks that you might not have seen before. It's going to be really fun and really quick, so let's jump in and get started. The first thing that I'd like to talk about with Mission Control is simply how to launch it. There are a number of ways to do this, and you might like one better than another, so feel free to experiment around and see which one suits you best. The first way to launch Mission Control is by using a gesture. This works on either your Magic Mouse or your Magic Trackpad or built-in MacBook Trackpad, but it's different across devices. For instance, on the Magic Mouse, you double tap with 2 fingers to launch Mission Control. Over on the Magic Trackpad or built-in trackpad, it's a 3 fingers moving in an upward direction gesture. So take your 3 fingers and swipe up to launch Mission Control. The second way to launch Mission Control is even easier than the first. It simply requires a keyboard shortcut that you set in System Preferences. By default, mine is the F3 key. It has a little picture of a couple of windows on the key to give you a little hint of what's going to happen. So simply press the F3 key and Mission Control will launch right away. The third way you can launch Mission Control is through something called a hot corner. Go to System Preferences and click on Mission Control, then click on the Hot Corners button in the bottom left of the Mission Control System Preferences window. Here you will have the option to assign Mission Control to a corner. Now what this means is that simply dragging your mouse to the specific corner that you've set up will launch Mission Control. This is a really quick and easy way to launch Mission Control. I personally really like hot corners. The downside is that of course you get a lot of accidental launches simply by mousing over that corner by accident. So be sure to experiment with this a little before you commit to it and decide if it's something that's going to help you or hinder you. Once you're in Mission Control, using it is actually pretty intuitive, so I don't think there's too much that we need to go over. But just to give you a quick overview of what's going on here, there's a line of thumbnails at the top of the screen. These represent your various desktops and of course dashboard in addition. Desktops used to be called Spaces in previous versions of Mac OS X, but they have since changed the names. Each desktop can have its own windows and applications assigned to it, which essentially just helps you organize the clutter that is normally on your screen all in one place. You can click on a window to make that one active. You can drag windows to different desktops. You can rearrange your desktops, and you can even launch new desktops very quickly. You have 2 main goals when you're working with Mission Control. The first is simply to find the window that you're looking for. So when you need to switch applications or windows and you have a lot open, then it can be a little tricky, but Mission Control makes it easy to kind of get an overview that lets you zoom out quickly and find the window that you're looking for. The second goal would obviously be just to keep everything organized. When you feel like you have a lot of stuff open and you're switching around a lot, go into Mission Control and drag stuff to different desktops and assign things to different desktops so that when you're using your machine, everything is kind of in its own little space that makes sense in your head and you can navigate around easily without clumsily clicking around trying to find what you're looking for. When using just about any main feature or application in OS X, it's critical to find your way around and learn how to tweak the system to best suit your needs. This is definitely true of Mission Control. There are a few quirks with it that you might or might not like, and I personally like to dig in and set it up my own way so that I'm more comfortable. The first thing that I must do as soon as I start using a computer is make sure that my desktops stay put, and by that I mean that by default OS X automatically rearranges your desktops at the top of Mission Control, those little thumbnails, based on what you most recently used. I personally really don't like that. I like the predictability of having my spaces or desktops always in the same place, and I don't like it when they're constantly moving around automatically based on what the computer thinks that I want to use next. And so to modify this behavior, all you have to do is go into System Preferences and Mission Control and make sure that the second box is unchecked in the Mission Control System Preferences pane. This will make the behavior of Mission Control, in my opinion, much more predictable and easier to work with. Another thing that I really like to do with Mission Control is assign some apps to specifically stay within a certain desktop. So rather than swapping around desktops and applications all the time, it's kind of nice to just know that Certain applications are always going to be in certain desktops, so you can quickly switch to them without any hassle. To do this, open the application on your Mac and then right-click on the icon in your dock. From here, navigate to the little options menu where you will find the option to assign it to this window or all windows or no windows. The all windows option is kind of helpful because sometimes you do have an application that you don't necessarily want to hide every time you switch desktops. So this will allow it to stay in the front and travel with you as you switch desktops. Assigning it to no desktop is the default option, so when you have that checked, it essentially just means that you could put it anywhere you want it, and then assigning it to this desktop simply means that that application will stay in the current desktop. So if you like for Safari to be in your first desktop all the time, then open your first desktop, drag Safari to it, and then assign it to that desktop exclusively. The final way that you'll want to modify Mission Control to work specifically the way you want is to go into System Preferences and manage your keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts are a very personal thing, and it's completely acceptable for you to have your own system that you like more than the default setup. So definitely go in, tweak the options, and see what you like the best. So now that we know our way around Mission Control and know the basics of how to modify it to fit our needs, it's time for my favorite part, the tips and tricks that you might not know exist. Some of these I guarantee you'll know about, and others I hope that you don't and you learned something today. The first thing is how to switch active spaces or desktops when you're in Mission Control. When you launch Mission Control, the desktop that is active will be the one that you were currently on when you launched it. To change this, you might think that clicking on the thumbnail above is the way to go, but that will actually simply switch to that desktop in the full normal mode of OS X. To switch active desktops while you're in Mission Control, you're going to need to use a swipe gesture on your trackpad or Magic Mouse. This is a 2-finger swipe gesture on your Magic Mouse and a 3-finger swipe gesture on your trackpad. Alternatively, you can hold the Option key down and click on one of the thumbnails in the top row to switch to that desktop. While we're talking about the Option key, it's worth noting that at any time when you're in Mission Control, holding down the Option key will give you extra options, as it normally does in OS X. You will see the option to close a desktop or delete it in addition to the option to create a new one. Neither of these actions actually requires using the Option key, but it's just kind of a different way that you can use to bring them up. The next 2 tips are actions that you can do while hovering over a specific window or set of windows in Mission Control. To sort of get an expose view that spreads out the windows of a given application while in Mission Control, you can use a gesture on your Magic Mouse or trackpad. It is 2 fingers swiping up on your trackpad and 1 finger swiping up on your Magic Mouse. As a fun side note, when you hold down Shift while performing this action, you can see it in slow motion, which is completely useless but kind of interesting. On a similar note, when you're hovering over a specific window in Mission Control and you want to see a larger version of it, you can use the Quick Look shortcut and simply hit spacebar. This will bring up a nice large preview so you can see specifically what is in that window. Another helpful thing that I like to do is drag the entire set of windows for a given application and move it to a different space. This is accomplished by clicking specifically on the icon for the application, which appears beneath the set of windows. Clicking here and holding while dragging will allow you to drag the entire set of windows rather than one window from that application. My final Mission Control tip for you is that you can actually drag a file into Mission Control and drop it on an application. This is accomplished exactly like you would expect it to be. Click on your desktop or in the Finder, begin to drag a file and launch Mission Control and drop it on the window for the application that you would like to launch it in. It's admittedly easier just to drag this to your dock, but I thought I would let you know that this is possible. To end out this video, I think it's worth discussing Expose, which is a feature that you might have thought went away in Snow Leopard, but is actually still around and related to Mission Control now. To launch Expose is kind of the opposite of launching Mission Control, so it's a 3-finger swipe down on your trackpad. This Expose view has changed a little bit since previous versions of OS X. I really like that you can see your recently opened items at the bottom in a thumbnail strip similar to the desktops in Mission Control. One other really neat feature that you might not know exists is that while in Expose view, you can actually hit the Tab or tilde keys to quickly switch between applications. Like some of the other tricks that I've shown you, it's not particularly useful, but it is helpful to know it's there. And with that, our video on Mission Control is complete. I hope you learned all about how to use it and how to access some hidden features that you might have not known even existed. I'll see you next time.